Hey everybody, welcome to Fractured Focus, episode number 26, the show we obsess about everything from geek culture to nerd news, along with random topics for discussion. I'm one of your hosts, Ben Gordon, and coming in live from the great state of Nebraska, the original Swino of Omaha himself, Mr. Now Game of Thrones fully 6th season watched, however you want to put that, Mr. Matt Swinehart. Matt, how you doing?
I am good.
Good week?
So I have watched the 6th season.
Mm-hmm.
If you're wanting to see that now, it's not going to happen.
We're going to tease it. This is not just episode 26. This is going to be a little teaser. I don't even know if we should call it a teaser because we're not going to give anything away. We're not going to show anything of that footage. But we're going to go ahead and tease them with the fact that we're going to be doing the season 6, the final past season's reaction for Matt finally watching Game of Thrones sometime this week too. So that will be up soon. So for all of you that have been asking us to do that for quite some time, and that's probably the most commonly the thing that I get the most requests for, it will be up soon. And I guess we've been talking about in season 7 we will probably start doing reactions as they air the night of, just because they'll be new, and we may as well, because we don't have any more past seasons to talk about too. But
maybe Shameless or something. Here's
something that we can give them, since we actually haven't even shot it yet, so we can't really show anything. That would be kind of funny to do like a little jump into it where here's just talking again for 30 seconds. So you want more of that? You got to tune in later this week. Would you say that Game of Thrones, just overall, now that you're up to speed and you've seen everything that's been put on the air so far, is it as good as everybody told you it was going to be?
Yeah. I mean, you're the one that told me it was going to be good. I've actually heard people say they don't like it.
Well, not everybody's going to like it, but I mean, yeah.
But no, it's definitely worth the hype.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Cool. That's it. Save the rest, dude. That's liquid gold. We got to save it for the reaction when we do that too. So that will be up soon. But we got an exciting week ahead of us. Didn't have a show last week, but we've got some topics that we're excited to talk about this week. Let's start off with the first one, because this takes place tomorrow. So I should have this first segment posted hopefully later tonight. I might post it early because it's about WWDC, Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference, one of the biggest keynotes that they have and conferences they have through the year where they make major announcements. This is where the first iPhone I think was at Macworld, but it's where they used to have iPhone announcements. They don't do that anymore. Now they have their own iPhone event that's always in September. But WWDC is always huge. We always get what the next operating system is looking to look like for both the iOS devices and for Mac. So iOS 11, we're definitely going to see that tomorrow. The next version of the Mac operating system, we know we're definitely going to see that tomorrow. But then there's all kind of rumors and stuff about what else we might see there. So I thought we'd go ahead and take our first topic, since we are kind of tech nerds on the show, especially when it comes to Apple stuff, to talk about the predictions we've heard, our thoughts on whether or not we'd actually see this stuff, and more importantly, our hopes of what we really want to see tomorrow at WWDC. So we'll go ahead and start with you, Matt. What predictions and hopes? Well, let's start with predictions. What do you think we're going to see if they're based on the rumors and speculation thus far?
The two things I've got the strongest feeling about is obviously we're going to start hearing some stuff or seeing some stuff about the Mac Pro.
Oh, yeah. Do you think we'll see it that early, even though they said, don't expect it this year?
Don't expect that. Well, I think we'll hear about it. We'll get some more detail around what they're wanting to do with it, because it has become a priority to them, at least according to what they're saying. I mean,
all the trouble they went through.
Yeah, their new speak is that we're bringing it back. You're going to love it.
It's going to be modular
this time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we'll get a good dose of Mac Pro. I hope anyway. And I'm excited to see if they're going to have the Apple Siri. God, the thing,
the home, home. What do you call it? Assistant, something on the equivalence of Amazon's Echo, the Alexa,
the Echo,
and Google Home, right? God, I really hope we get that.
I hope they announce it. I hope it's not just one of these things where it's like, oh yeah, we're just unlocking the Apple TV to be able to do it for you.
Because that doesn't have a built-in mic other than the remote, which you got to hold down a button to do anyway. So that's the equivalent of basically, well, I got my phone and I can do that too. I want a dedicated, always listening for Hey Siri Star Trek-like future where I can literally just say, hey, turn on the living room lights, because we've already got some of that stuff built into the
and I want to have that Australian voice like on my phone.
Well, let's be honest. If we get this device tomorrow, which I think both of us hope we do, I don't think we have to worry about whether or not there will be an Australian accent, because that's already built into Siri, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we're good on that one,
My
too.
Siri has it anyway.
Yeah, yours does. I don't know about mine.
I don't know about anybody else.
Or the other billion out there on the planet, but we'll take a poll. That's cool. What else do you think?
I mean, those are the big things that I'm hoping for.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about some of the other rumors that are up there, and you can tell me whether or not you predict we'll actually see them out there. Sometimes they've shown new hardware for laptops, and sometimes they don't, so it's always hit or miss. It's not for sure. I didn't expect we would get new laptops at this point, just because they just put out those new Touch Bar ones, which, again, I'm not a fan of. I don't want a fucking Touch Bar Mac. I know that they sold well. I like the physical keys. I don't want to. Anyway. So I didn't expect we would get new MacBooks this early on, but all the rumors have said quite the opposite, that no, they are expecting. There were some leaks from some retailers and stuff that we might see new hardware for laptops, which is great. I'm just guessing. Do you think if they announce new laptops, there's no way they're going to pull back on the Touch Bar thing now that they've divvied in that and given developers access to it? If there's new MacBook Pros, they're going to have the fucking Touch Bar, unfortunately, aren't they? Or do you think they would have another line without it, like the entry-level MacBook Pro that they do now? Do you think they'll have more of those?
No, I don't see them going to the entry level. I see them going a step above where they are, to maybe even reintroducing the 17-inch.
You think?
And a more powerful. I mean, I think so. I mean, I think
because almost like no other manufacturers are doing that. All of them have gone to mobility, where 15 is the largest, unless you go the real Alienware 17. Like, none of them have done that.
Well, and the thing is I think with the Mac Pro being delayed, I think that they're going to put like a MacBook Pro. Like, this is the elite version. Mm-hmm. If you really want to do stuff, here's the machine to do it on.
That would be awesome, because I think that was one of the biggest complaints about the last generation. It's weird to say it because it was just a few months ago. The new MacBook Pros, even with the Touch Bar, is a lot of people were complaining about not enough RAM, which Apple even explained, and so did a lot of other PC manufacturers. The processors, Intel goes more from like that, what was it, Skylake to Kaby Lake or whatever, it's getting harder and harder to get down to these nanometer processes that is taking them longer and longer to do, and they simply didn't have the chipsets, not just Apple, but nobody did, to get the newest generation chipsets out there that could handle more than 16 gigabytes of RAM. So there was really nothing Apple could do other than wait longer and piss more people off because people had been waiting so long, or put them out at the time. So I think that there's a big misconception then, but I think by now we probably can have processors that can handle the full 32 gigs of RAM, which everybody wants on the professional side. I would love to see that. I just really hope that we get... Do you think there's any chance they'll put out a Mac Pro with more frickin' ports, or are they going to stick with just USB-C and just that ship's already sailed?
I think that ship's already sailed. Mm-hmm. I don't see them adding any different ports. Now, they may add a couple of more USB-Cs.
Do you think they'll have more than 4?
Is it 4 that's in there now?
Yeah, well, there's 3 MacBook Pros.
2.
There's the entry-level MacBook Pro that has a slower processor. It's still way faster than the MacBook Air, but it has 2 USB-C on the left side, nothing on, or no USB-C on the right, and then the next version of the MacBook Pro, which is the 13 Touch Bar, and then the 15 Touch Bar, each have 4, 2 on each side.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So I just thought there was only 2.
Yeah, on the 13 entry level, it's only 2. I know there's some benefits to that. I mean, that's cool being able to plug it in on either side as an AC adapter, and USB-C is universal. That's cool.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. Is, I mean, if you only have 2, you're already using 1 with your power cord.
I agree with you. And you know what? To be honest with you, I don't give a flying fuck about that benefit of being able to plug it in on either side if I could at least get my MagSafe port. I love this MagSafe.
And that's just it. I mean, that MagSafe thing, a lot of people were upset.
Oh, dude.
Because you have that on there. If you got up right now and you pulled that, you wouldn't pull your whole laptop off there.
Yeah. I love
but
MagSafe.
if you had the USB-C, it would.
It's such a small kind of now obvious thing with the magnet in there, but how many times have you accidentally, especially with all the wiring and all the setup that we got for this, that like you trip over a cord and it just pops off no problem without worried about losing your entire laptop plus all the hard drives and stuff you've got plugged into it. I love that. And I get they're trying to go from minimalist, and USB-C can do it all, and one cable will plug in anything, eventually your phone, your tablet, your laptop, your Nintendo Switch controller, like everything USB-C. I like that. I hear you. But you know what? I will still give up one for this. I love it. Yeah. And I know that Apple's got their idea of minimalism, and well, you'll eventually love it better. And so far with these new MacBook Pros that they put out last year, again, I'm obviously not the person they were going after because they sold very, very well, but I'm not ready to give up all my USB-A ports. I'm sorry. I'm not. I have no problem with adding USB-C and slowly phasing out A, but to say all at once right now when almost how many people do you know that even have a USB-C device?
I don't know anyone.
Yeah, maybe none, right?
I'm stuck in USB too.
I remember when they first got rid of the floppy drive. Well, at that point, most people had moved on to zip disks or CD drives or on the internet. Yeah. That wasn't a big deal because there was already so much proliferation. They jumped in and went all in on USB-C when no one fucking has it. That is so stupid to me. I just don't get, I don't know. I just hope that I would love to see us getting a MacBook Pro that I don't see them adding more ports. I wish they did. I wish they gave to the professional that wants the 15-inch with tons of ports, including Ethernet. I want a gigabit Ethernet port in there just in case I need it. Yeah. I need a couple USB-A ports. If you don't want this, there's plenty of other models you can go through, but there are people that want all this stuff without fucking dongles and hubs and stuff to plug into, but who knows? What do you think that the odds are that they're actually going to go that route, or do you think it's just going to be all USB-C for all models now going forward?
I don't see them going away from it.
I don't either. If I had to make a guess, if I had to bet money, I would bet it's going to be all USB-C, which sucks, but whatever.
They've made the decision. They're not going to go back on their decision.
Do you think they will give us more options for a MacBook Pro without Touch Bar, other than just the entry-level, what they call entry-level model?
But that entry-level model is only has a 2 gigahertz processor in it. I mean, it's it's fast, but it's
faster than their entry level line, which is supposed to be either the MacBook or the MacBook Air. I mean, it's much more powerful than those, right?
Yeah, but when they phased out the 2016 models, they were being sold with a 2.7 gigahertz processor in them.
Yes, but I completely agree with you. But I read a bunch of reviews. I can't remember if it was Tom's Hardware or I don't know. I checked a whole bunch of sites on the on where they actually did metric scores with both of those, and actually the 2.0, the new one, entry level one, outperformed the 2.7.
Really?
Yep. Not by much, not by a lot. It was barely, but it did. Yeah. It did. So
I'm at that point where I'm shopping, and I'm looking for new in box 2016s with the 2.7. Versus going to a place like Nebraska Furniture Mart here in Omaha, and getting that 2.0.
You know, if that new, I would too. In fact, even though that the 2.0 just barely, but it does outperform the old generation's 2.6. I would still go with the 2.6. A, it's going to be less expensive. B, I'm still going to get all my ports I'm still going to use for years to come. And if I'm not getting that much of a bigger power push by going to the newer model and only going to have USB-C, guess what? That's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, they're priced about the same right now.
But I would still go with the older. Look at the benefits. I'd still have my MagSafe. Yeah, I would still go with the old one too. Okay, so We're probably, based on we are expecting to get new laptops tomorrow. Do you think that they're finally going to add a Retina display to the MacBook Air? Do you think they're finally going to send that out to pasture because they've gotten the new MacBooks up to, like, down to the price level that competed with the MacBook Air? Because they're eventually just probably going to have MacBook and MacBook Pro. I think the only reason they'll keep the Air around is because it's the only laptop you can get for under $1,000.
Yeah, but it's under $1,000. It's like what, $899 for the cheapest one. So for $300 more, you can almost be in the entry level Pro. Sure, but I'm saying right. But I mean, Pro aside, you're right. But Pro aside, I'm talking about the MacBook, the really thin portable one. That's got one USB. And it's that thinness and the lightness,
right?
That I don't know if the Retina can support.
Well, the MacBook is Retina.
It's a huge battery drain.
But the MacBook, the 12-inch, I think that's supposed to long-term supplant the Air. The Air is not Retina. The MacBooks that's 12-inch is Retina. That's what I'm saying.
But the MacBook, the trying to think. The regular MacBooks are Retina display?
Yeah, the new MacBooks that they came out with 2 years ago are Retina. They are way higher resolution than the MacBook Air. The MacBook Air has a faster processor, but the MacBook Air is still less expensive than the Mac. I don't think that they've been able, at least in the first 2 years, to get the MacBook, which I just think is the eventual successor of the Air. It's going for thin, light, minimalist, average everyday user, not your power user. I don't see them having an Air and a MacBook on the same, you know what I mean? Those are competing things. But I think once they can get the MacBook down to $1,000 price, then you don't need the Air anymore, because the Air is the last laptop that they sell that doesn't have a Retina display, which still works. I'm using it right now, but you know.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe they don't see it as a priority for what they would probably consider novice level. I mean, you know, however you're going to do it, because it's probably not a power user or professional. I don't know. The thing about the Airs with me, I know when they first came out, just how fragile they were sometimes.
Really? I love this.
That was the big thing.
Uniframe aluminum body. This is hard as hell. I love this thing.
The upper deck, Jason's dad actually owned one, and he cracked his screen.
Really? But you could do that with any screen.
On the upper monitor part.
This seems to me, at least to me, it feels like a much more solidly built and higher quality than any other laptop I've used before. But, you know.
Well, yeah, but that's you're comparing it against PCs.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I just think that eventually the Air is going to go away, and you're going to have the MacBook, and you're going to have the MacBook Pro. I just think that makes sense. I just don't see a reason for a third line, except for that they're keeping around for price. But who knows?
Yeah, I mean, listen to our Switch commentary later. They're so right about that.
Yeah, no shit. This is all opinion. I'm trying to think if there was any. Well, we know that we're going to get iOS 11 tomorrow and a new Mac operating system. I'm probably more excited about what iOS 11 is going to entail. There's been a couple people, and they do this all the time every year, but a bunch of graphic design artists put up concept videos of stuff that they'd like to see. A lot of times you have all these ideas. I'm like, oh my God, Apple, put that in there. And there's some great stuff. What kind of features or whatever, you know, if you just had to brainstorm right now, would you love out of the next operating system running on our iPhone and iPad devices? Anything even come to your mind?
Most of my stuff is hardware based. I mean, I would really like wireless charging. Just because in my house with my kids, sometimes it is damn near impossible to find a charger. So if I had the option to just put something somewhere and wireless charging, and I feel like in a way too, it would be a nice opportunity for me to disconnect from my phone.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
If I had the ability to put it down somewhere, like, and maybe if they come out with Siri or whatever they're going to call it, and it could tell me if I have a message, or it could tell me, you know, if I have a call or missed call. Maybe I can get away from my phone a little bit. Yeah. I know that's not what Apple wants. They want me on my phone 24 hours a day. But
well, the wireless charging has been rumored for a few years. It's rumored this year like it has been forever, but we're really not going to find about hardware until assuming that they do like they have for the past 4 or 5 years. Their September event for the iPhones that come out in October, November. You know what? We may as well talk about that since that's a big deal too, because all the rumors are that this is the 10th anniversary. That September event's going to be huge. It's going to be the first thing that they probably do at the new Apple Park at the Steve Jobs Theater out there. I can't wait to see that. And there's rumored of not just the 7S, this year's iPhone, and the 7S Plus coming out, but a third phone, which is going to be, some are calling it the iPhone 8. Maybe they'll call it the iPhone Edition. Maybe they'll call it the iPhone Anniversary. But a third model.
iPhone 10.
Yeah, that is all basic. Like the whole front is screen, which now at this point, they kind of have to do, don't they? Because the Galaxy S8 pretty much did that. And then Andy Rubin, the original creator of the Android operating system that has since left Google, just announced a few days ago his new phone called the Essential, where the entire front is basically just all screen. So at this point, this iPhone, we'll call it the 8 like most people are, it's got to be all screen, right? How could they be the ones that don't?
See, I don't know, though, because I just think about it. Going away from that button. If you're going to go all screen, how are you going to do touch?
What do you mean touch?
Like when you're unlocking your phone.
Well, what's rumored in there is that it's still going to have the optical.
I mean,
it's still going to have an optical sensor that can read your thumbprint for the Touch ID. It's just built behind the screen. They have it working apparently, which we'll find out in probably September. But if they could get that working,
see that then.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool. I can't wait to see it. But I remember Tim Cook talking at one of the All Things D conferences with Walt Ginsburg from the Wall Street Journal, about how he and Steve Jobs always used to talk about their eventual goal of just having this tiny little piece of glass that you can do all these amazing things on. That seems to be like where they're going in the future, and that's kind of like the epitome of basically like what we're already using, right? The only reason we have a button is because right now with the current technology, you need to have a button. But if you can get away from that and still have the 3D touch where you can sense it.
You need to have the button, but with me, so I went from a regular 5 to a 6, and they changed the configuration of the buttons.
What do you mean they changed the configuration?
And it's like it threw me for a loop big time. Well, originally my 5 had the button at the top. The power button was at the top.
Oh,
now it's
I see
on
what
the side.
Saying. You're talking about the sleep wake button, sure, right?
Yeah. So I mean, changing that configuration. It's still every once in a while I'll end up shutting my phone off.
But you know why they did that one, right? Is because on a one-handed, when you're holding it, most people's thumb can't reach the top because of the increase in size, right?
But going away from that front button, I mean, I don't know. My concern is there's times I'm hitting that and it's not doing anything. What happens when it's all screen and I'm like trying to...
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing.
It's like not there.
We're basically talking about like whether or not it works. If it would still register, and you have now, remember, I don't have the 6S or the 7, so I don't have the 3D touch with the haptic where you can feel the vibrations like you're clicking a button, like my brother does. And I've seen some of the new ones. I've gone to the store and touched them, and it's kind of weird because you feel a vibration. It's tricking your brain into thinking you've clicked it. We do have a Mac here, and we have, actually, I've got it right here. This is like the Magic Trackpad. And the new one, the 2, it doesn't have a button. It does not click. But when you turn it on, it's got the same haptic vibrations for that force touch in there, so that when you press it, it vibrates and it tricks it just right that it tricks your brain into feels like a click.
Yeah.
It's so weird because when you turn it off, you're like, what the hell? I know there's a button there. And if they can get that, that's the big if. But if they can get that working, where you can still have like a button that's virtual on the screen that when you click it, it feels like you're clicking it. It can still read your thumbprint and it works just as great. If you have those problems removed, is that something we'd all want? And I would say once we had it, we would say, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember I went to a Samsung when I was still on the Androids. And I went to a Samsung, one of the first ones that didn't have the textile buttons.
Yep.
It didn't have a pad to it. But it had that rumble. So when you push the buttons, you felt that
haptic
feedback like you were hitting it.
Mm-hmm.
And it made a difference. It really did.
Yeah. Plus, Apple always tends to take things that other people have done and just do them a lot better. You know, that's kind of been their niche. I'm just really fascinated.
It would be kind of nice, too, because you could move that button really anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, it opens up. Well, not only that, but if you've got your phone and you remove the black bezel on the top and the bottom, you have a lot more screen real estate, and it starts.
Yeah, you definitely have more real estate.
It starts becoming a different experience because it almost, you can imagine doing stuff with augmented reality where you're holding up the phone and moving it around to see stuff, and it really feels like you've just got a piece of glass that you're looking through with overlays on. I don't know. I'm excited to see this. Do you think we'll see anything with AR?
Where would the forward-facing camera be?
Don't know. I mean, the way that the Galaxy S8 and the Essential phone have done it is that there's tiny little rooms where the screen like cuts out around the phone, but it's very minimal, so it is there. But I don't know. I mean, this is all rumor and speculation at this point, too.
And then you're going to move the speakers to the top and bottom. They already suck. Well, this one speaker's already on the bottom, but you're going to move the...
Well, the speakers have always been on the bottom so far. That wouldn't change. It wouldn't change anyway.
But as far as for you to be able to talk on your phone...
Oh, you mean the... I'm sorry.
Phone
you mean the speaker, the earpiece. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's like a slit, and from what I saw, it was at the very top, so they just like basically moved it to the very top, so the screen starts basically just below that thing, or maybe they cut out around it. I don't know. These are the things we'd have to see. I just think it'd be cool to have something that's basically all screen. But then again, for all we know, maybe we'd get it in practice and it would be the same response as the touch bar. It'd be like, fuck this, give me my button back.
Yeah, I'd almost say if you want to go all screen, let's do it to an iPad first.
Oh, see, I think you got to test it with the phone first,
happens.
like they did before they put out the iPad.
No, the whole purpose of a phone is to make phone calls, and I think that's what they're forgetting.
Well, here's the problem, though. Guess what the percentage of people that use it for phone calls is compared to everything else? It's not even close.
I know, but if you've had to make a phone call on your phone in the last 5 years, you're disappointed almost, because there's times I'm like trying to hear them.
Oh, really? See, I've never had a problem with phone calls with it.
There's like, and it's not just this phone. I mean, I think it's just cellular phones in general. You're not going to get that crystal clear thing.
God. You remember cell phones when we were back in college that had like an indent that almost shaped to your ear that you knew exactly where you were putting with your phone? You're right. That's gone away. And with each phone you have to find out where's the sweet spot. But I think we're just so used to that now.
Well, and then on top of that, now like I get done talking, and it's old people. I'll say right now, it's old people you're talking to the phone on, because I'm not talking to my wife on the phone that much, and I'm not talking to my friends. But my dad, my grandma, when they call, I'm like having to have a conversation with them and move that around so I can hear. And then when I'm done, I have to clean my phone off.
Yeah.
Because it's been pressed against my face. Mm-hmm. I'm like, God.
But yet, billions of us accept it and have no problem with that because of the trade-offs that we get. So
and don't change anything.
Yeah,
I'm just bitching.
Yeah, no, but I hear you. I'm trying to think if there's. I think those are really the big rumors for WWDC. Oh no, I'm sorry. One more. It is rumored that we could be getting finally a 4K Apple TV, and that finally, even though Amazon said that they were going to do this the moment Apple opened up their Apple TV to other app developers last year, they said they were going to put out an Amazon TV or Prime Video app, and they never did. They're competing with Apple for iTunes for media. I get that. They stopped selling Apple TVs on the Amazon store because it doesn't have their app, which they have chosen. Apple has not banned. Apple said, go ahead if you want to. They have chosen not to. But now the rumors are that they've worked out a deal. Amazon is going to put a Prime Video app on the Apple TV, and they're going to start selling the Apple TV on the Amazon website, and it's going to be 4K. I would love if we finally got this. I don't know how many people out there actually... Besides your enthusiasts that are pissed off and yelling, why aren't you getting on this technology and jumping into it? How many people really have 4K TVs that are just dying for this content? Because there's not a lot of 4K content out there right now. And even if you're getting it, streaming it is not nearly as good as a 4K Blu-ray.
That's just it. And we've talked about that before.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about streaming 4K content. What was the minimum? Like
25 megabits is the minimum, and that's high compression.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's not – I don't see it that way. Now, from a client server standpoint, like a Plex media server type of thing, that 4K would be good. Which we both do.
I'm all for it. That would be awesome.
By all means.
Yeah.
Definitely. But if you're going to do that and it's going to cost $600 –
no, they would never
bother.
If they're going to do it, it's going to be competitive with the other ones. Even 4K Roku devices, which have been out for the past year, are only like what, $150, which is the current price of the Apple TV. There's no that would be suicide, and Apple knows that. The whole streaming media.
Just it. I mean, don't do it at a cost because you're going to find that there's a little bit more resistance in the market when it comes to that.
Oh, that's already been proven, right? I mean, Roku came out of nowhere and became a household name, and. Now you got Apple TV out there kind of strong, but I mean, this has become a cable box replacement for a lot of people, and now a lot of companies are starting to let you use these devices as cable boxes. You can use an Apple TV as you can sign up for DirecTV and just go through the box, get it through the internet. You can do it with certain cable companies, and just have the app that lets you stream the content to the app on the Apple TV. The days of these monopoly cable companies, and I can't remember a person ever saying, you know which company I really love? Time Warner. Or Comcast.
Jesus, Comcast.
Yeah, ever.
You're never going to hear people say that.
Never going to happen.
Those are the two worst.
Hated companies out there because they just don't care and they don't have to compete with other. Well, they can only one cable company per territory, which is just stupid. But regardless, they've been able to charge these ridiculous fees, like $17 a month plus tax rental fee for this disgusting device that hasn't been updated. The user interface is terrible. Or I can get this $100 device for a streamer that works way better, way quicker. It's smoother and easier to navigate. And when you try going back after you've had this, I'd never want to go back from the Apple TV to these crappy old interface devices that feel sluggish and dated. It just drives you nuts. But do you think that there's any chance that this new Apple TV and the Siri device are the same thing?
Maybe. I mean, that's kind of a fear.
But here's the thing. Why would that be a fear? Because the big reason I don't think they could do it with an existing Apple TV is there'd have to be a microphone that's optimal, not just like
maybe
one
there is.
Well, here's the thing. Not just a tiny little slip microphone that's on like the side of your iPhone for making phone calls. All the devices out there right now that currently do this, and you know Apple's aware of this and would want to do this even better, whether it's the Amazon Echo or the Google Home, have omnidirectional multiple microphones in there to be able to hear from different parts of the room and be able to channel listen for different voices. They have more expensive, they're not generic microphones in there. They're built to listen and listen very well, even in noisy environments. Having a tiny little mic on this plastic box, Apple would never take that route if they were going to go this. If they're going to do it, they're going to try to do it better than everybody else. But if they did put out a new Apple TV that was the same price as what the other ones do, you can't go more than that. You're not going to make it. But also it was like a cool, awesome, aesthetically pleasing speaker. It looked cool. It had better microphones in it. It was the same cost, and it did 4K. I don't care if it's the same device. What's the difference?
Yeah. No, in that case, yeah, that'd be nice. Mm-hmm. No, but no, like what you were talking about, that's actually would be great. Mm-hmm. Make it so that it has its own speaker, the omnidirectional thing. But then if you could also hook it up to your own home system easily.
You can already do that with the Apple TVs better. Now. Yeah, that would already be
No, but I'm just saying, like as far as I don't think the Alexa, you can put it to, the stereo system you've already got.
I think you can put a microphone to output to it, but you can't. That doesn't mean you can like talk into your home speakers. You still need to talk into the Alexa. I don't know that for sure.
But if I have like a Sonos, let's say I have a Sonos system in my house, obviously superior audio. Now, if I had that Apple TV box there, and I could say, Siri, iTunes, whatever song you wanted to play,
right,
and then I could say, play it to Sonos or play it to the home theater, and it could do that with direct.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
So I wouldn't have to hear it out of this one little box.
Yeah,
all the way out.
I want to get to the point where, and I know it's complex. I mean, even right now, we do a little bit of the HomeKit stuff where we can tell, the lights to turn on and off. But how do you do that for different people or different users? Or how does that work with people that are logged in with different iTunes accounts? Well, how does you do that? Does it listen for different voices? Are we at that point where it can do that? Does it get too complicated there? Yeah. How do you do that? I mean, there's issues that need to be worked out that obviously will over the next few years. But I'd love to be able to say, hey, throw on our awesome show. Throw on Fractured Focus on the basement TV. And it know what I mean, instead of having to do one or the other. And I think we'll get there. Just be cool if they kind of took a big leap towards something like that to make it easy. The fact that we're having to switch inputs between, let's say, Nintendo Switch, an Apple TV, a PlayStation, a Roku, whatever it is, and still try to find your old school remote with all these buttons that nobody uses. No, remember those old remotes with Sony ones that had 100 buttons and you thought it was so cool and advanced?
I have one that I still
Whoever uses those buttons. Like,
there's one button. Input is the only button I really use.
As soon as we can get away from the input button and just being able to tell your TV, hey, switch it over to the Nintendo Switch, and that's it, and it work, that's going to be probably one of the biggest deals, even though that sounds small, than anything else out there because it takes away most of the complexity. I love the Apple TV remote is this tiny little thing with 4 buttons on it. That's it, and a touchpad, and it works so much easier. I love it.
No, but I mean, you touched on it, and it's something I guess I'd like to see on there too. Because obviously, when you set Siri up, you set it up to your voice. Mm-hmm. Now, it would be nice if within Siri, I could have my own thing, my wife could have her own thing, my kids could have their own thing, and then I could set permission levels for my kids.
Right.
Like, they can do these things, but they can't buy anything. They can't do any of this other stuff.
Right.
That way, like this last Christmas, you heard these stories about this little girl read her Christmas list to the Echo, and the next
I heard about that.
Build all this
People
stuff.
Walk in, they think it's funny to say, hey, Alexa, go ahead and order me 12 bath towels, and it just go ahead and does it. You're right. There needs to be security. And I don't know if that's a question of the AI or the algorithms that can listen for voice just becoming more mature, that they can detect differentiation between, because they have to be able to do it over 99% of the time. 95 will not count. If you hear stories about your children accidentally ordering something inappropriate, that will spread virulently through the blogs. It will get blown out of proportion. It will stop it. You're right. I think that they definitely have to get there, and I hope that we're closer to that too. I think those are all the big rumors out there. We'll just kind of end with, out of all that's rumored or anything else that you would love to see, what are your biggest hopes for WWDC tomorrow?
Really, news on the Mac Pro.
I honestly think it might get a mention. That's it. I would love to be wrong. I think that it's just too far out, and because Apple always tends to talk about what they focus on, and that I don't think they'd want to take attention away from their Mac Pros that it looks like they're going to be shipping tomorrow by talking about something that they just tend never to do that. I would love to be wrong. I think if anything, maybe we'll get a mention, but that's it. But I hope you're right. My biggest hope, I hope we get a 4K Apple TV and a Siri device. If they're the same thing, great. If they're not, great. But I want those things. I would love to see those things too. Well, for those of you watching, let us know what you think in the comments below, what you would love to see at WWDC. If you're watching this, I should probably say today. But let us know. And we'll see next week who is right. Well, I don't know, right. If we got what we wanted, we'll put it that way.
Yeah.